Today we're going to talk about building an engaged, responsive email list. First, I want to say Happy New Year. It's the first episode of the year. It's Monday, which means it's Mailbox Monday. That's the day every week where I, Roy Furr, here at Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, answer your questions about marketing, copywriting, business building, and more. And so with that, let's check out today's question. So this comes from Kay. It says, Roy, I'm a corporate wellness director and a motivational speaker. My biggest challenge is building my email list with those who resonate with my content. Sometimes it's a struggle to motivate others. I want those on my list to read and enjoy my content and respond with questions. I worked with Joseph Rodriguez, who's been my coach, and currently I'm working on imagining my clients succeeding. That's awesome. This is still a struggle for me sometimes, work in progress, striving to make flow a priority. Thanks for any help, Kay. So I'm really I'm gonna hone in and focus not on what Joseph is focusing on with her, but with my area of expertise, which is around building an engaged, responsive email list. And specific, I want to talk about this whole I want to start by talking about motivating others and share the truth about motivating others. Then we'll talk about the secret to creating email content that resonates and how to read the mind of your email list and building your email list so that you can put all this in practice. It's all coming up here, starting with the truth about motivating others. Here's the thing. Motivation is an inside job. Motivation cannot come from the outside in any sustainable way. It just doesn't work like that. Like, motivation is not something that you can force on somebody. If somebody wants to be motivated, if they can find something inside that motivates them, that's all great, and you can help them discover what that might be, but you cannot force it on them. And this does have application across the spectrum in marketing. In fact, Eugene Schwartz started his book Breakthrough Advertising with his first paragraph here. Let's get right down to the heart of the matter. The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself and not from the copy. So he's saying you cannot motivate prospects into buying. They have to be motivated already. And they are, which is why advertising and copywriting and marketing works. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is a copywriter's task, not to create this mass desire, but to channel and direct it. And then the first section goes on for a little bit, and then the last paragraph of the first section of Breakthrough Advertising is, let me repeat, this mass desire must already be there. It must already exist. You cannot create it, you cannot fight it, but you can and must direct it, channel it, focus it onto your particular product. And here, the person asking this question is not necessarily directly asking about marketing messages, but instead just asking about content more generally. The exact same thing applies. You cannot create it, right? You cannot fight it, but you can and must direct it, channel it, and focus it onto your particular message. Help them find their motivation. You cannot motivate others. You can only help them find their own internal motivation. So you can elicit it through questions, through examples, through stories, through different communication that you can use to help them find their own internal motivation. But don't think about it as I'm going to force motivation into you. It's, if you are interested in being motivated, I'm going to help you find that motivation inside of you, right? And this is a completely different perspective. Instead of being against somebody, and I think of the same thing in the context of selling and sales. Instead of being against somebody and trying to convert them hard, you're helping them find what's going to motivate them, what's going to convert them, what's going to get them inspired, what's going to get them, pulled into whatever message it is. Whether it is a sales message or it's a motivational message of some type, it's about sitting side by side with them and helping them find what's motivating them instead of going head to head with them and trying to force motivation down their throats. Now, there is one important thing that I want to end this section with that will bridge perfectly into the next section. You can model motivation. You can model whatever behavior you want from your prospects, from your audience, from your market. You can model that moment in you or in somebody else where that motivation is the highest, right? If we're going to talk about motivational messages in the context of email, it could be motivating to buy, it could be motivating for anything else, but you can model that motivation. And oftentimes that's done through something like story. Like, oh, this is when I overcame that challenge, right? Or this is when this is this incredible story of this person who overcame this challenge. Well, if I listen to your story or I listen to somebody else's story about overcoming a challenge, I may find my own internal motivation to overcome challenges of my own. Because the way that our brains work is we have these things called mirror neurons. And basically, when somebody else is behaving in an emotional way, our natural pull towards empathy is happening on a subconscious level, on a neurotransmitter level. Like our brains are trying to interpret the emotions that other people are feeling, trying to interpret the meaning that somebody else is experiencing. And we align with that. And so as communicators, if we model whatever motivation that we want someone else to experience, their brains are naturally wired to experience that same motivation, that same experience, right? And so that's worth remembering as you think about, okay, how am I going to create content that motivates? How am I going to create content that makes people engaged and responsive? Like, I have to think, what makes me engaged? What makes me want to respond, right? And then how can I model that behavior through my content? Well, then we're going to get into the secret that creating email content that resonates. There's an exercise that I got from Bill Bonner. Now, Bill Bonner, at this point, I believe he's a billionaire. He created this publishing empire under the Agora umbrella, and he's been successful for decades as a copywriter, as a publisher, as a marketer, and he regularly creates content that resonates with a very large audience. And I had a chance to interview him one time, and I asked him about copywriting, and he said basically that he'd learned thousands of rules for writing good copy. But when he sits down to write at this point, he throws out all those rules, and instead he tries to put himself in the mind of his prospect and say, what story resonates with me, right? From this perspective of the mind of the prospect, what story resonates with me? So there's a market story, there's maybe one of Bill's personal stories, maybe whatever, but he's looking for whatever story is going to resonate with him from the perspective of the prospect. So he tries to get himself out of his own head, like Bill Bonner, I'm writing this content to engage my audience, and instead gets himself in the mind of one prospect, like I'm getting this email. What's going to get me so excited to get into it? So he finds that story. And then he steps back into Bill Bonner, the writer, the copywriter, the communicator, into that perspective. And he says, okay, now how can I tell that story in a way that's going to engage my audience and get them to do whatever I hope for them to do at the end? Oftentimes it's going to be clicking through to some other thing, or maybe it's going to be, I don't know, making some kind of decision, etc. And then I'm going to write that in as clear and compelling of a way as possible. And so if you want to create email content that resonates, put on your reader hat, put on your prospect hat and say, what resonates with me? And then go back and put on your writer hat, your communicator hat, and write it, create the content in the way that is most compelling to you, that leads towards whatever next action you want them to take. And then do it again and again. And again 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 and again. Just repeat. Publish, 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 publish. One of the most beautiful things about dedicating yourself to a regular publishing schedule, for me, it's been daily emails since April 2014. For other people, it might be weekly or twice a week or something like that. But one of the beauties of that is you see when you get it right. You see when you get it wrong. You see what people respond to that you hoped and expected them to respond to. You see what people respond to that was like, oh shoot, I had to meet the publishing schedule, so I just put that out, but it's getting a much better response than I thought, right? And you just publish it. You just keep going. And then as you publish, if you are putting out a large volume of content, you are given the opportunity in those moments to experiment. So maybe one thing is a little bit off from your core content. One thing is much more in alignment with your core content, and they may get different responses. And you start to discover through time what resonates more. And this is something that, like, Joseph, who's mentioned in the question, coach of mine, Joseph's content, he experimented, and early on he was doing commentary, insights, and perspectives on various business books, entrepreneurship books. More recently, most of his content is all about new thought, about manifestation, a lot about Neville Goddard, and that's come through experimentation and figuring out what's resonating with his audience. For me, I've discovered that one of the most consistent things that I can do that's going to resonate with my particular audience is about copywriting. And I have a particular experience and reputation in that market such that when I talk about copywriting, I get a lot more response than when I try to veer off into other directions. And so through this repetition, you discover what resonates and you can do more of that. You can change your focus through time. Now, if you want to know more how to read the mind of your email list, how to get what they're thinking, how to, my biggest challenge is building an email list with those who resonate with my content. I want those on my list to read and enjoy my content and respond with questions. Well, here's how you make that happen. Actually, you do exactly what I did to get this question submitted to me. I have a short form that you can fill out that says that has a question that's based on the Ryan Levesque or Glenn Livingston single most important question. Ryan Levesque's book Ask is the most popular place where people learn this. So the question is, what is your single most important question about XYZ, about, in my case, marketing, copywriting, building your business, right? What's your single most important question? And when I do an episode like this, I say, and if you'd like to have your question answered on an upcoming episode, you can check out the link in the description and submit your question for it to potentially be answered in a future Mailbox Monday episode, right? Well, that link, and you could check it out by checking the link in the description with this episode, asks what's your single most important question about XYZ, right? So that gives you constant feedback, and you can link to that from various places, right? But that gives you constant feedback from your market about what they are interested in, what they want. And this is where they're going to submit questions, right? So if you want them to ask questions, that's a great place. They can also ask questions in comments, etc., right? Or they can reply to your emails. You can say, do you have any questions about this? Go ahead and reply to the email. I read every one. Maybe I'll reply, whatever is appropriate for you, but you elicit that action if that's what you want. Right? And so you want to invite and engage in conversation with your audience, right? And so the more that you make it a two-way street, the more people are going to feel like it's a two-way street. This episode is a demonstration of this being a bit conversational, even if it's not like in the moment conversation. It's somebody asks a question, I answer the question, I'm inviting more questions, right? This is a conversation, right? And from email to email, if you're writing emails to your list, what you want to do is, especially with each individual email, you want to focus on one reader. You want that one person who this email is the best fit for to feel like you are speaking directly to them, like you're connecting directly to them as a solo individual. And they need to feel like it's coming from a solo individual, from you, from a person, right? Not from some big corporate entity. We want to do this, right? Even if you exist within a larger corporate entity, you can communicate directly with your audience as one person speaking in your role inside that corporate entity, right? So you want to focus on this being a human conversation from one person to another. And that makes it feel much more engaged. Now, when it comes to actually building your email list, creating great content is the first thing that you can do to make sure you continually build your email list, because it doesn't matter how many people you get on your email list. If people are unsubscribing or not paying attention because they are not engaged with the content, then it doesn't matter, right? And so all of that is critical. And the other thing that great content will do is it will get shared. And so you'll start to develop a reputation through shared content, and people will join your list and then share more content, etc. Right? But as you think about building your email list, think about this. There will always be a next action. Whenever you are publishing content, especially if it goes somewhere on the web too, you always want to drive people back towards the next action that they should take, which, especially if it's published to people who are outside of your email list, that next action should be subscribe to your email list. And so for that, you want to create an offer to gain subscribers. It's not sign up for my email, sign up for this, sign up for that. If you notice with Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, I have multiple free gifts, and depending on how you enter my universe, you may have been offered one or multiple free offers to actually enter your email address and get on the list, right? But in nearly every case, I am not just saying, hey, you're going to get the daily email. It's get this, and when you get that, you'll also get the daily emails and the content to provide ongoing value to you. But you want to create some kind of offer where they get something valuable in exchange for signing up for your emails. And so you offer that to them, and that's how you start to build your email list. And so content that you put out points people towards whatever that offer or those offers are. And then those offers put people on the email list so that they get more content that maybe they share that directs people back to the offer, right? And remember, you're always only growing one reader at a time. I talk about this it's really important to remember that there is one person who is engaging with your message at any given time. And they could be simultaneously, right? But it's one person engaging directly with your message, another engaging directly with your message. And when I started Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, I just asked one person to sign up, right? And then I asked a few more and a few more. But it's one person is signing up at a time. One person is reading your email at a time. It's always about speaking to that one person to one person. That's how you're going to build that engaged, responsive email list. So finally, at the end of this episode, I always like to include a call to action. If you've listened or watched throughout this entire episode, you're probably thinking about building an engaged, responsive email list. And so I want you to think about, what are you currently doing right? What opportunities have you found for improvement? And how can you use what you've learned so far in this episode in order to build your email list better, to make it more responsive, to get people more engaged with your email messaging? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you, including content on copywriting, marketing, business building, and more. You can subscribe here. You can also go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com to get my daily emails, plus some bonuses right away when you sign up. And I will include links in the description to two things. Number one, the first link in the description will be to build your email list for marketing and sales. Joseph Rodriguez actually mentioned in the question, he sat down with me and we had an entire conversation. I think it was about 90 minutes where we just went deep into what you need to do to effectively build an email list for marketing and sales. And he still uses a lot of that. He has this huge YouTube following, and it's just proven processes and principles for building an email list that's actually going to generate marketing and sales down the road. I will also include a link to ask me your question, as I mentioned earlier in this episode. That's all included there. I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. And hey, I'm here every day trying to help you improve yourself as a copywriter, marketer, and entrepreneur. Happy to be doing it again in 2023. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching, listening, engaging with this episode, and sharing it so that other people can find it too. I will catch you again in my next episode. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.